and welcome to another edition of The Distinct Leader. And today we are talking about how to motivate employees. That's such a popular question. And today we're going to break it down for you. So in order to be able to do that, I had to break it up into two parts because I think it would be a little bit long. So the first part will be understanding motivation just in general. And then part two will be some specific tips and understanding about this, what needs to be in place structurally, and what you can do as a manager to help your employees be motivated. So let's get started. Okay, as a reminder, everything that we do related to the Distinct Leader, to this channel, is a reflection of our leadership blueprint. Remember, nothing is random. Everything is organized in terms of the key building blocks, really the 9 building blocks to being an effective leader manager. And so everything we talk about in this channel will fit into one of these 9 building blocks. Okay. Now you can see this is the breakdown of motivation and the 4 main components that are a part of it. We'll go through it more individually, but to be motivated, you have to have a connection between your head and your heart. And ultimately, you've got to have your own intrinsic why. All right, so let's break down motivation into a simple explanation. And we're going to look at the origin of it. So motivation comes from one of 2 places, either intrinsic, meaning it's from the inside, and the motivation usually comes from the heart, mind, and spirit of a person. It's natural, and there's extrinsic. Extrinsic is external circumstances, and that's where someone might feel a bit of pressure from external circumstances. So we have motivational pressure from within, and we have pressure from without. Now, here's an example. Let's say that you are doing work that you are really interested in. It makes you feel good. You have an authentic interest in something you're really good at, and you feel good, and you're like, I really love this work. That would be because you love the work, you like the feel of the work, it gives you pleasure. That would cultivate intrinsic or connect to your intrinsic motivation. Conversely, another way to look at how to generate extrinsic pressure is setting goals. That means that because I am creating something outside myself, I want to push myself to go to a new place, and this goal is going to motivate me, which then feeds the intrinsic, by the way. It's going to motivate me because it's like, how bad do I want it? As we talked about before, that's going to be the pressure from the outside. So for another example of extrinsic is what I call PPP, and that's positive peer pressure. Let's say someone is maybe not terribly motivated to do something, but because the rest of the team agreed upon it, that means they're going to, it's going to kickstart them into taking action on something they would otherwise not be terribly interested in or naturally motivated to do. All right, let's go back and look at the breakdown of motivation in just a wee bit more detail so you can get a real sense of it. So we have the 4 elements, which are motive, motivation, movement, sustained, and then momentum. So when we look at it from the very inception, motive is the desire. It is the reason why, which we also call intrinsic. So you're going to be naturally motivated if you have a natural reason why. I get up to go to work because I need to make money and pay the bills. Okay, that's intrinsic, the desire to not starve and be homeless. Okay, that's, a basic example. But then what happens is that motive turns into motivation. And motivation is the spark of energy combined with your why. So that reason and the volume of your why will fuel the amount of energy from 0 to 10. I am motivated at a 2 today. And then my brain needs to get me motivated to a 5 to get X amount of work done. This is a great example of managing and negotiating procrastination, for example. And then once you get that spark of energy, you're going to have movement. Now, the key is you got to have movement, but can you sustain the movement? And sustained movement has to do with consistency. I'm doing that movement over and over again enough to where I am now gaining momentum. And momentum is that natural energy that then takes over, and then it requires left effort or personal negotiation with yourself to actually do the work. So that's a breakdown. So you got to ask yourself, if I'm not motivated to do something, you can figure out somewhere in this formula or this chart where you stand and what needs to happen in order to get from here to here, depending on what the issue is. The same is true for employees. If someone is not motivated to do something, they probably don't have a personal why. You probably need to have a conversation with them and have a coaching conversation with them to help them discover their why, whatever needs to change internally, but you also will need to determine what might need to change externally. You might need to apply some external pressures. I'm using that word very loosely and from a behavioral science standpoint, and to up there, to cultivate, to broaden, to stimulate their internal motivation. And that's the dance of negotiating motivation, not only with yourself, but also with your employees as well. So what we're going to do in part 2 is to look at some ways of having a coaching conversation and what other external things you can do. We'll do intrinsic or internal, and then we'll do external, and you can put those two together and add that into your toolkit. All right, bye for now. Oh, make sure you subscribe, by the way, because you want to make sure you keep getting all of the great content. Also, too, I didn't say this earlier, but please be creating a leadership development notebook. Take notes, take action. This is what this YouTube channel is designed to do. Okay, we'll talk to you next time.